who gets this one? Let's go into it. Let's go. Let's see. Carlos and Joey.
How should such conflicts be prevented? An efficient, empowered, agile innovation team do not understand why required approvals from the legal department are allowed to delay their progress. Eventually, the team confronts the product owner in a heated retrospective exchange. The product owner replies that their approvals are needed to check for existing patents, which would block the team's product from going to market. How should such a conflict be prevented? Interesting. Okay. A, require the supporting department stakeholders attend the daily meetings to report progress. I'll keep that.
How would that help?
I'm sorry?
How would it help? I mean, I'm on board. I just want to know a little deeper.
I guess from a legal standpoint, if they're going to be kind of, if we want to make sure that from a legal standpoint that what we're doing is correct, they could be considered a new potential stakeholder that needs to be involved in the project.
That seems reasonable. Keep it rolling. So we'll hang on to A. Cool.
Right. Ensure that the product owner can be easily approached to respond to team questions and concerns. Product owner is not a legal expert, so they may not be able to answer some of the questions that the team has.
Okay.
C, so no, I would say no. Require the team to move a story to the Kanban blocked column if they have concerns about progress. I like that because of, if that's the only thing that's holding it back, we can potentially just hold that piece off from going forward and then relay back to the stakeholder or to legal to see what the issue is.
Okay, what's the Kanban mean? Like what?
So from what I understand, Kanban is just showing like it's a board of columns, right? So it tells you what's in progress, what's worked, or what's in progress, what's being tested, what's being developed, and it kind of breaks out like what features or what stories are kind of in what stage they are, whether if it's development, testing, in UAT, if it's in production or currently going to be deployed, things like that. That's my understanding to it. Could be wrong.
You did a great job. It's just like a visual board. Kanban means signal in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. They tell me, they could be lying to me. But like it's like all the stuff that's to do, and then like doing, like it's underway, and then maybe like it's just a workflow. Like, hey, you gotta QA it, check it, test it. Like it could be the stuff that's like done, and then there could be another column for like, yo, things are blocked, meaning like something's in the way, something's impeding us from getting it done. And the goal is like work stuff across the board, like methodically. And then like if something gets moved, like up here, like we're stuck, like at this point. So what C is saying, like for this story, this little card, saying require the team to move a story to the Kanban board, Kanban block column if they have concerns about the progress. Does that technically make sense? Like Carlos, like if you are concerned with the progress, move it to the block column.
Well, it's not necessarily blocked, right? Because they're concerns at that point. So they're not truly blocked because of the fact that they haven't been validated yet.
Right. And it's another person. So like maybe legal is in here. Maybe instead of QA, it's like legal or something. Like, hey, we got to do something. Then when it's done, it's got to be sent to legal or something like that. So it's just part of the process, basically, of the workflow. That's what it is.
Yeah,
and now
I
the
think
team knows, like, yo, this is part of the workflow. Keep going.
Yeah, I think with that, because it's only concerned for the time being, I think it's not necessarily blocked, so I can take C out. Ensure the product owner represents the team, the rationale behind the refinement workflow. I like that because it keeps everybody aligned with what's the reason why we're potentially holding this the story up, and just making sure that there's no issues. And I think at this point, it kind of lowers the conflict between the team and potentially legal. So I think we can keep that.
All right, that's awesome, dude. So that's there. Carlos is there. Keep it there. And so, did you pick that, or just you want to hang on to it? I'm sorry to jump.
No, I'm debating between A and D.
Okay, A and D. Sweet.
Yeah. And I think D would probably be best because 90% of the time, legal probably won't want to be considered a stakeholder because they're too busy with other legal issues.
They're stakeholders, dude.
What's that?
Like stakeholders don't. It's not like I volunteer to be a stakeholder. It's like you're impacted or care about this project. Therefore, you are a stakeholder. But getting them to show up every day might be something else. But I don't know legal.
Yeah. I would say D would probably be the best one because it just aligns the team on what the reasoning is.
Okay.
And just making sure that, we're doing what's right. And having maybe an email or a quick call with legal could probably just either
Clean it up.
Clean it up, yeah. Just make it quick and easy.
It's going to prevent it in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Joey, thoughts? Which answer you like?
Yeah, I like D. Like the first one, the stakeholders aren't going to attend the daily meetings.
All right.
B, I think just in general, the product owner is already going to be able to be reached and is already in communication with the team. So that one doesn't make sense to me.
Can or should?
Should. I mean, the product owner is going to be working with the teams throughout the process.
Can or should?
Good question. Should.
Dude, I'm a product owner, and occasionally I'll derelict my duties. I'm not gonna lie to you, to be honest. Lately, I've been okay at what I'm doing, but for a while, I was on the write book side and teach students, and I forgot that I had to pay dev dudes to do stuff and give them guidance, and so I didn't forget to pay them. I ain't choice of that. I wasn't involved as much, and it didn't go well. I'll just say it in a nice way.
Yeah, it sounds like that wouldn't go well.
Yeah, you let them go, you're like, oh, they're a self-organizing, managing team. They'll take care of themselves. It's like, no. They need some coddling and stuff. But yeah.
Right, and D just makes sense. It kind of tells you the why behind the what of what's going on just by communication.
Okay.
So I think it's D.
D, I love it. All right, cool. Luke, if I said it wrong, I apologize, dude. What are you thinking, dude?
No, I go with D too because I was leaning towards A initially, but it doesn't. It just has it says it's supporting department stakeholders attend the daily meetings. So by communicating, it shows that the team will understand why the delay is, and so I lean towards D.
Okay, love it. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Karen, the last line says, how should such conflicts be prevented? What is the such conflict that they're talking about? Like in all this gobs of words, what's the conflict they're talking about?
The team member doesn't understand the issue basically, and then they just eventually found out from the product owner. So I think it's actually B, ensure that the product owner can be easily approached to respond to team questions and concerns, because like you were saying, the product owner should be involved and everything like that, but maybe because they're an efficient, empowered, agile innovation team, right? So they're doing their own thing or whatever, and then they're but they well, I don't know.
No, you're doing good. I don't mean to draw and mess you up your flow. You were rolling. It's good. You're doing good. They're out there doing their thing, and it's the assumption is hey, you just get rolling. I have made this mistake as well. No one ever yells at me, or my employees don't yell at me. Plenty of people on the outside have the opportunity. It hasn't happened yet, but I have the other problem. They just don't say anything. And so what happened here? It says eventually, or the team doesn't understand why required approvals from leader are allowed to delay their progress. So they understand that there are approvals. They're just saying, I don't understand why we let legal slow us down.
Right, and it doesn't seem like they asked. So when they eventually was like, what's going on? And then the product owner told them. So I'm like, that could have been, they could have found out the answer like way earlier. So maybe like for B, if we ensure that the product owner can be more easily approached to respond to team questions and concerns, then they can just take care of this like earlier on in the process. So
that seems reasonable. And the heated retrospective, like
yeah,
heated's a vague word, but a retrospective is to like get down to brass tacks and say, hey, what are we doing well and not doing well? This is definitely a conversation like, hey man, product owner, like, we don't understand the logic here. We think that like it's poor, it's not going well. I don't think we have good communication or whatever. Like that could be valid things to get better at. But saying it in a disrespectful or argumentative or demeaning or just screaming, yelling, punching, biting kind of way is not acceptable. So they can say it could be the most justified thing in the world, but if you say it wrong, you lose the effectiveness, right? I've been fired. Gosh, that. But yes, go ahead.
The reason I don't like D is because it's placing basically all the onus on the product owner to present the rationale to the team, but the team's like empowered, right? So they should be able to like, if they have a question, they should be able to ask the question. So like, why are we placing it on the product owner to like be in charge of like the team's understanding of everything? Like if the team doesn't get it, they should, you know.
I think everybody's got a little bit of culpability or whatever you want to solve in this one. I agree. Jared, you say the heated exchange. What are you thinking? What came to you, dude?
So when I see this, the heated exchange, usually there's no resolution that comes out of that type of exchange.
True.
And as a project manager, you want to keep those type of conflicts from coming up again. So that in itself is a conflict because other things come out of heated exchange. You're no longer, after a while, you're no longer talking about what the problem is or what the stop is. You start getting into other issues.
No doubt. Yeah, it becomes something else. So really, like, it doesn't say who's responsible, but in this situation, if this kind of like flare up happens in the retrospective, who as a role should be the mediator and the bringer some like realizations to this and kind of getting it to who should be leaning on that? Whose role should that be primarily? Right? Yeah, talk us through it, man.
So like the Scrum Master is kind of like the coach. He focuses on ensuring that he's taking care of the team or the dev team, making sure that they have everything they have in order to quickly get through all the user story during the sprints. So he should be kind of like mediating the situation.
Yeah, and definitely mediating it there. And then let's go, Colleen. If the Scrum Master were to like say, okay, I broke it up in the meeting and I had them talk through it in a nice, respectful way, and I emphasized that, like, we got to be, adults about this. If the Scrum Master was leaving and kind of looked themselves in the mirror, like out of this, like, could they have some kind of recollection to say, well, maybe I didn't do my job previous to this meeting, the Scrum Master? What do you think about that, Colleen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Scrum Master should also be not just with the team, but with the product owner as well, sort of like not a go-between so much, but like a facilitator between the two. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, so I selected D because I think that the Scrum Master would ensure that would try to emphasize to the project or to the product owner how important it is to keep the team up to date on and keep them informed as to why things aren't moving forward like they should be.
Understood. And then, like,
certain things on the backlog, yeah.
Like the dealing with the cause now, but like, say it wasn't the flow of the work, maybe it was why the work is in the order it is, or what the customer really wants, or blah, 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 work hours or something like that. So it's like, is this gonna keep them from fighting and biting in the next retro, or is it like having them be like, hey, product owner, like, you ought to be more involved, dude. And then also, seeing the team to be like, the scrum master's kind of like taking the team's temperature all the time to be like, I see them starting to kind of like get heated and start boiling a little bit. Like, I ought to try to understand why they're upset and bring some people together to try to do it. So they're kind of like, scrum master doesn't do anything other than like watch and listen and cultivate in the right way. So yeah, it's like what their role is. Whose was this originally? This was Carlos's, I think. Carlos, what do you want to go with answer-wise? It'll be all right regardless, dude.
I still want to stick with D. Stick with D.
Love your stick to itiveness. That's good. So the answer I said is how should we prevent it? Like the thing is, how do we keep the kettle from boiling and shooting off the steam? It's like, hey, this, like the team knows that there's an issue here or that the flow is what it is. Legal's got to do it. They don't understand. And it's come like eventually they confront, meaning they like, hey, I got to talk to you about this, blah, 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 in a heated. We're trying to prevent the heated. We're trying to get information exchange quickly. And so that's a lot of the Agile is we're taking like these hierarchical like communication structures or the weighting and the whatever, and we're saying like smush it down, like let's have the conversation now. And so like the Scrum Master should be like, yo, dude, you got to be around more often. And it should say the team like, yo, you got to reach out and have these conversations. That's kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of stuff. So good job.